Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you an all affordable makeup tutorial. So I'm starting off with the Maybelline Baby Skin Pore Eraser, and what I'm going to do is just going to lightly tap that in all over my face and really concentrate it on the areas where I have enlarged pores, like my nose, around the sides of my nose, my chin and my forehead. Next, I'm going to go in with another primer just for overkill, and it's the Rimmel London Stay Matte Primer. And I'm going to go ahead and really concentrate that pretty much all over my face. Just lightly tap that in. And I really liked the consistency of that matte primer and was actually really impressed with it, as you can see here. I'm going in today with the Revlon ColorStay foundation in the shade Buff, and I'm just going to go ahead and first apply it with a damp beauty sponge. This one is by Chi Chi, which is another affordable makeup brand. And when I get back in frame, you're going to see me just buff that all over one side of my face, just so I can see what applies better. Whether it applies better with a beauty sponge or whether it applies better with a brush. Okay, I went to apply another pump and it actually squirted all over my hand and got onto my shirt, so I wasn't impressed with that. But after I clean myself up, I go in with my Zoeva buffer brush and I apply that on the other half of my face just to see how the two halves compare, whether I like it better with a buffing brush or whether I like it applied better with a makeup sponge, because this is the first time I've actually used this foundation. So I'm going to take another little pump, and I decide that I like the coverage and the look better with that buffing brush, so I just take another light layer over top of the side where I originally applied it with the sponge. And then just to make sure that I don't get any cakiness, I'm just going along with that damp beauty sponge once again and taking off any excess product that might have built up around especially my nose, my eyes, my mouth. And then I'm going in with the Rimmel Wake Me Up Concealer, and I picked up the shade Ivory. And this is meant to be kind of a brightening concealer that's made to give the illusion of being awake, but I find that even in this lighter shade Ivory, that it is a little bit dark for a highlighting concealer. So you'll see me buff that in with a sponge. I did enjoy it, but just for the purpose of what I wanted it to do, which was a highlighting concealer, it was a little bit too dark and didn't give the effect that I wanted it to do. So I went in with my trusty Maybelline Instant A2 Rind Eraser Concealer, and I have this in the shade Fair, which I find still gives me a nice highlighted effect underneath the eyes and on the forehead and in the middle of the face. So I'm just going to go ahead with that trusty Chi Chi makeup sponge, and I'm going to buff all of that in. You can see here that I'm checking it out in the mirror close up, seeing how that it's all blending together. Okay, to set all of that in, I'm going in with my Revlon ColorStay Translucent Pressed Powder. And first I'm going to take this quite small brush by Real Techniques, and I'm going to go in underneath the eye and make sure to set that concealer to prevent any creasing. And then once I feel like that's set, I'll take a big fluffy brush and that same powder, and I'm just going to run that all over my face with a light veil, just to make sure that everything's nice and set in. A lot of these are actually first impressions in this video. I picked all of this stuff up, well, a lot of this stuff up new in my Priceline haul. which you can check out in the link in the description box. Now I'm going in with my Maybelline Master Sculpt little duo palette. And I'm going to go in and just lightly contour and just bring a little bit of shape and as well as a little bit of colour back to the face. I found here that I've found a foundation that's finally like a tiny bit light for my skin. I found that the buff shade is slightly light for my skin colour, but I think that it's actually a fairly good match. I'm just used to seeing foundations that are slightly darker than my skin on my face, so I'm looking at myself, and even though I found it a nice match to my neck, maybe it was a little bit too dark, so I do find that I'm going over with this sculpting bronzer colour for a while and building that up just to bring a bit more colour back to the face. Now I'm going in with my Essence Eyebrow Definer, and I'm going to go ahead and just lightly fill in my brows, give a little bit of shape to them as well as just filling in any sparse areas. I found that this pencil is quite nice for beginners. I am in love with my Anastasia Beverly Hills brow wiz and even the brow definer, but I think that if you're after a nice affordable little brow pencil, if you're just starting off with brows or you want a more affordable option, I did quite like this pencil. It was quite easy to work with and it isn't as pigmented or dark as the Anastasia one, so I think there's more room for forgiveness if you are someone who is beginning with their brows and hasn't got that kind of preciseness to it yet. I think this would be a great brow to start off with, because you can see it does still give you a little bit of colour, and the waxy formula does help to kind of nicely keep everything in place. But just to kind of reinforce that, I'm just going in with the Essence Make Me Brow, which is a tinted brow gel with little fibres in it. I'm just going to go ahead and just build a little bit more volume to the brows as well as setting them in place. And then I'm just going to brush that product through. Next I'm going in with that Master Sculpt Contour Palette again, but I'm going in now with the highlight shade. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply that on my eyes. I don't have a drugstore or an affordable eye primer, so that's why I actually did take the concealer and the foundation on my eyes. That'll just help it sit a little bit better and help the colour pay off as an eye primer would do. So then I'm going in with the Revlon ColorStay 16-hour eyeshadow, and the palette itself is called Addictive, and I'm going in with that top light shade, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and go over where I just put that highlight shade from the contour palette, and I'm just going to go ahead and take that from the under the brow all the way down onto the lid, and then taking that dark matte brown shade on a precise little blending brush, and I'm going to first get in focus and then I'm going to go ahead and pop that on my outer corner and then buff that into the crease. I wanted it to remain quite simple because we're going in with liner and lashes, so I'm just taking that colour and I'm just defining the outer V and defining the crease a little bit, but still keeping it really buffed out. So once that's buffed out, I'm going to see how much more product I need, and I'm going to go in and just deepen it a little bit, and again then repeating that process of placing the colour and then buffing it out. So here I'm buffing it mostly in the crease, but I do take it down onto the lid just to give the lid a little bit of colour as well. And then after I'm happy with that, just to make sure there are no harsh lines and make sure that's all nicely blended, I'm just going in with a clean, big, fluffy blending brush. To define the lower lash line, I'm going in with that matte brown again, and I'm just taking a little definer brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and line the lower lash line with that shadow. And so it's not too crazy harsh down there, I'm just going to go ahead and buff that out, just so that we've still got that smoky kind of lower definition, but nothing too harsh or crazy. We want to make sure that we keep it all nice and buffed out. Okay, so next I'm going in with the L'Oreal Palette's Infallible eyeshadow in the colour Hourglass Beige, and I absolutely love this eyeshadow. I've been using it as a lid colour, I've been using it as an inner corner highlight, as you can see me doing here. I'm doing both of those things, but this shadow is absolutely gorgeous. It brings such a luminosity to the face and just really brightens up the eyes and makes you look awake and bright, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I've pretty much been using this shadow almost every time I wear eyeshadow since purchasing it. And just to kind of build up the colour, I find that it's best applied with your fingers, as you can see I did there, just to intensify the colour a little bit with fingers or even with MAC Fix Plus on a brush. And so that's the eye look, and to define the eyes I'm going with the Maybelline EyeStudio Lasting Drama Gel Pot Liner. And after I have applied lashes and liner, I'm going in with this gorgeous lip colour and then defining the eyes with my Maybelline Lash Sensation Mascara. Next, because I forgot to earlier, I'm going in with the Maybelline Master Highlight Blush in 2.0 Pinky Rose. I'm just going to apply that to the apples of my cheek and blend upwards just to bring a bit of colour back to my face. And you'll notice in a second I do go a little bit heavier handed with this blush. It is quite bright, so I just use a powder brush just to buff it out and even it out a little bit. And that is it for this makeup look. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.